Albert Camus is one of the greatest French writers and thinkers. He was a philosopher, an author, and a journalist. He won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1957, and his most famous works are The Stranger, The Plague, The Myth of Sisyphus, The Fall, and The Rebel. Camus is one of the most representative figures of the philosophy of the absurd, or absurdism, which is a philosophical movement having at its central hypothesis that human beings exist in a purposeless, chaotic universe. Albert Camus is sometimes referred to as an existentialist, but he rejected this term throughout his life because he wanted to distance himself from the existentialism of Sartre. Camus considered that absolute freedom must be balanced with absolute justice. Too much freedom leads to the situation when the strong suppress the weak, but too much justice kills freedom, and we need to live and let live. While Sartre considered freedom as a constant given, that humans are condemned to be free, and that it's possible to achieve social and political freedom and justice at the same time without compromise. As a promoter of the philosophy of the absurd, Camus believes that life has no meaning, that the universe simply exists, and that it is indifferent to people's lives. We are like Sisyphus from Greek mythology, forever pushing that heavy rock to the top of the hill, although we know the rock will always fall down, and our life's work is meaningless. Our condition might be tragic, but Camus considered that this exact condition hides a blessing in disguise. Life does not have a meaning, but we're free to attribute it any meaning we want. His philosophy has inspired a lot of people in dealing with the absurdity of life, and even today, his philosophy is extremely relevant, which is why in this video, we bring you 7 life lessons from Albert Camus, which can help us appreciate the absurdity of life. Number 1. Create your own meaning for life. Camus says, "You will never live if you're looking for the meaning of life." According to the philosophy of the absurd, life is meaningless. Man's existence is absurd, as there's no justification for it. Regarding the meaninglessness of life, Camus seemed close to Arthur Schopenhauer. However, Camus is different because he considered that human beings have the power to create their own meaning of life, while Schopenhauer didn't consider that life can have a meaning at all. That life is suffering and human beings are driven by a powerful and invisible force called the will, and we don't actually have any control over it. Camus believed that human values do not have a solid external component. Everything is man-made, and Camus proposes 3 ways to deal with the absurdity of life: suicide, faith, or acceptance. Suicide and faith are irrational escapes from addressing the contradiction between the human desire for meaning and the indifference of the universe. By suicide, the person removes the physical form that was in charge of finding the life's meaning, and without the human mind, the absurd cannot exist. Through faith, the human being embraces irrationality and arrives at a certain concept regarding life's meaning which defies rationality. Camus also considered faith a type of suicide, namely a philosophical suicide, because faith defies rationality, irrationality being the opposite of a philosophical argument. After removing suicide and faith as acceptable ways to address the absurd, the only thing which remains is acceptance. Acceptance leads to individual freedom. You can create new meanings, and you can even create yourself. Acceptance is, in essence, Camus' core belief in how someone should live their life. The sooner that you accept that life has no absolute meaning, and that it's only you who has the power to create its meaning, the sooner you can become free, and only from that point can you really start to live your life. There is no absolute meaning of life. The meaning of your life is different to the meaning of somebody else's. To apply this lesson in your life, You should stop thinking that your life must be in this or that particular way, that you need to become a doctor, or you need to make a certain amount of money per year, or that you need to have so and so many children. Instead, you should delete all of these stories and consider that no one is watching you, that you're absolutely free to choose how your life will be. Your life has the meaning that you give to it, and you can change this meaning at any point. For example, if you spent the last 10 years working in a bank and life now feels boring, you might get stuck looking for the meaning of life in earning more and more money, in making your parents proud, or in making your colleagues and friends envious of you. But most likely, this is not a meaning you chose. Rather, you got this meaning through your life circumstances. You didn't choose it. But it is you who can always turn your life around. You can start over, redefine your own meaning. Maybe this time you might choose to explore the world, change your career and become a travel writer, moving from country to country, leaving behind your previous banking career. You never have to live your life in a pre-prescribed way. It can be whatever you choose. Number 2. Don't make happiness a distant goal. According to CAMUS, the struggle itself towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. What most of us crave above all else is security, that feeling that we are, at last, safe. We pin our hopes for security on a shifting variety of goals. A happy relationship, a house, children, a good profession, respect, a certain amount of money, and so on. When these become ours, we think, we will finally be at peace. But happily ever after is not a realistic goal. We are never satisfied with the things we get, and we will always want more. The more we chase for the things we believe we want, often the more unhappy we become. The secret is to learn to enjoy the process and not to mind so much about the goals. The more we can enjoy the process of achieving our goals, the happier we become, and the final goals may even start becoming irrelevant. As CAMUS said, we need to imagine Sisyphus as being happy. In the myth, Sisyphus is punished by the gods and sentenced to make him climb a rock to the top of the mountain, only to see it fall over and over again. This can be seen as an analogy for modern life. Given these conditions, there is only one way to be happy: to focus more on the process, on the joy of climbing the rock to the top, and not to worry about the fall. In the same way, we can learn to become happy in our daily life. For example, if you're a student and your goal is to graduate, instead of imagining yourself happy at the end of the university program with your diploma in your hand, it's better to make yourself love the process of learning, of going to school, meeting your colleagues, debating the class, and so on. Don't wait for the moment you reach your goals to be happy. That moment of happiness is too short anyway, so rather you should learn to be present in the moment. Number 3. Don't be ignorant. CAMUS tells us, the evil that is in the world almost always comes from ignorance, and good intentions may do as much harm as malevolence if they lack understanding. Albert Camus lived at the beginning and during the middle of the 20th century. He had a tumultuous life, and he senses that the world is in need of a new and simpler morality based on fairness and team spirit. He was in France when the German tanks reached Paris during World War II. He couldn't fight as a soldier during the war because of his physical condition, but he fought with his pen. He joined the French resistance, and all his life he wrote on behalf of the oppressed and against authoritarian regimes. During his lifetime, he did face evil, and he came to the conclusion that the root of all evil in this world is ignorance. In other words, the man with the right information and knowledge would always choose to do no harm to others. We live in an interconnected world, and we are social beings. Therefore, no man with enough intelligence would choose to harm others, as the harm would come back to him eventually. The morality of absurdism is very much rooted in empathy and the practical aspects of life, having a lot to do with fraternity between people and the application of fairness principles. We need to get informed before judging any action of another. Also, we need to learn to take things less personally. Not every attack against us is because of us. Maybe someone else hurt that person, and that person doesn't know how to deal with their own emotions. And the only way we can break this vicious cycle of hate is by refusing to continue the hate. For example, imagine your spouse coming back home from work and getting angry at you for something very small, like why you forgot to take out the trash in the morning. Instead of replying back with the same anger, you should reply calmly and also try to get more information. Perhaps ask them what happened in their world and what bothered them today. Being ignorant to other people and taking everything personally would be highly damaging to all relationships in your life. Therefore, try to get more knowledge about the lives of others and the emotions they go through, and try to break the cycles of hate. Number 4. Be a rebel. To quote Camus, "I rebel, therefore I exist." In the vision of Albert Camus, a rebel is someone who learned to say no. We need to get rid of the desire to please others because we'd waste our life otherwise. We have only one life to live, and we need to live it more authentically. As an avid reader of Nietzsche, Camus considered that life must be lived fully, in a free way, that we need to create our own values and learn to be more in the present. Also, we should not be satisfied in just following a standard way of living. We need to try unexplored paths in life and have more courage to rebel against traditional values. However, Camus differentiated himself from Nietzsche. Camus stood for a balance between freedom and justice, and he didn't embrace the irresponsible freedom preached by Nietzsche. But nevertheless, he was seduced by the Nietzschean call for authenticity and for the courage to break with the traditional norms. Your freedom to be who you are and express yourself is too precious to be traded for money or for a higher status in society. It would make you feel unhappy and would add stress to your life, affecting you mentally and even physically. Give yourself the space to create something new instead of trying to be what everyone expects you to be. To be alive means to rebel. Because we're all different, what was once good for somebody may be no good at all for you today. So it's important to know yourself in order to know when to rebel. For example, imagine you're given a new job to manage a small team in a company. The previous manager was holding meetings regularly, maybe 3 times a week, to make sure everybody is following the rules. Let's consider you're a person who hates meetings, considering them to be a complete waste of time because nothing ever gets done and people don't even take notes most of the time. Therefore, knowing who you are, you should decide to rebel against this tradition. You should talk to your superior and tell them that you want to implement a new type of management, with at least one quick catch-up chat per day with each member, as one-on-one conversations are always much more effective, because you can ask much more direct questions and be very specific. While in a meeting, there's a lot of time wasted with introductions and pleasantries. Plus, people tend to be less direct and authentic in a meeting room compared to one-on-one conversations. With that in mind, you should try to push your way in life. It will be much more rewarding in the long run than following the traditional ways of doing things blindly. Number 5. Spend time with yourself. As Camus so succinctly put it, solitude, a luxury of the rich. Throughout his writings, Camus discusses loneliness, despair, and themes of being alone. In today's world, we live in crowded cities, we travel in crowded buses and trains, and only the rich have the chance to buy luxury cars or can afford to live in spacious houses, set apart from the world. Even when you work from home, if you're not rich enough, you may well have to share your living space with other people. Therefore, the surest way to live in solitude is to have enough money to afford to live alone, to travel alone, to work alone, and to spend your holidays on private beaches instead of crowded shores. Money can buy you solitude, although it doesn't buy you an absurd life. However, solitude makes it possible for you to have enough time with yourself to meditate on the absurdity of life, to find out that life has no meaning but the one you give it. There are many ways out there to get rich, but it is equally common for rich people to be so stressed out because of their businesses that they don't have time for themselves. Therefore, it's important to cultivate a habit of finding a window of time during your day in which you can be by yourself. For example, instead of lunching with your colleagues during the workday, you can opt for a sandwich to enjoy while wandering in a small park beside your office. Or you can wake up 1 hour earlier to enjoy the sunrise and meditate on the absurdity of life before your family awakes. Solitude might be a luxury for the rich, but we can sneak solitary moments into our routine no matter our income. Number 6. Be flexible. In the words of Camus, "Blessed are the hearts that can bend. They shall never be broken." In Camus' view, it is very important to be flexible and tolerant in life. Flexibility doesn't just help us in dealing with heartbreaks of romantic relationships, but also in facing some of the world's biggest tragedies, including war. The one who can survive in extreme situations is the one who can adapt the best, according to the theory of evolution itself. Also, some scientists even consider that flexibility is at the heart of human intelligence. Alan Barbie, professor of psychology at the University of Illinois, proposed that the brain's dynamic properties drive human intelligence. Making smart decisions adapted to the circumstances can prevent our heart from being totally broken. And in time, we can heal. Camus learned this from his own life experience when he faced the terror of World War II, when he confronted the stubbornness of his communist associates from whom he later separated, the clashes between the French colonial forces and the Arabs in Algeria, and so on. He learned that decisions can be tough, and what was a good approach for one situation may not be for another. That the world is always changing, and we need to adapt to new circumstances. We should open our eyes to what is in front of us, be more compassionate towards others, and show more empathy. Flexibility is a very important skill in every field, including our relationships. Change is inevitable, and in order for a relationship to grow, it's very important that both partners adapt to those changes. For example, if you don't have a job because you're looking for the perfect one, and your partner has just lost theirs, then you might try to lower your expectations and accept any job you can get in order to assure a comfortable life for the both of you. For the sake of the relationship, it's better to be flexible and find ways to solve problems, even if it means compromising your career goals. If you were stubborn in this situation, you would not only put your finances at risk, but also your relationship. Number 7. Choose love. In our final quote from Albert Camus for this video, he says, "Nothing in life is worth turning your back on, if you love it." Albert Camus was a womanizer, having multiple affairs with different women. He married his first wife to save her from her drug addiction, just to find out later down the line that she was cheating on him with her doctor. In time, Camus developed a very libertarian view over romantic love, and he often seemed to choose love over commitment. However, he was at the same time a very tolerant and gentle person, having regrets when his second wife went through a severe depressive episode due to his cheating, and so at the end of his life, he focused more on his wife and children. He valued love above all, and he considered that love is our only duty in life. Often, love puts us in extreme situations, and we might have to choose between love and being moral, like falling in love with somebody already married, or when we're married and we fall in love with somebody else. According to Camus, when love clashes with this sense of duty or commitment, then it is love we should listen to. It might also not be worthy to stay in a marriage where there is no love. Love is an act of rebellion, and it is the force of life, giving us a shield of protection against being broken by the absurd. To apply this lesson in our life, we need to live more in the present, to learn to express our love for other people more often, without pondering too much about what the future will bring to those relationships. For example, if you have a high-paid job and you travel in a business trip to a distant country, and you meet somebody there that you fall in love with, but you must come back to your home country due to your contract, then you should take a leap of faith and find ways to remain there, even quitting your job. Nothing in life is worth turning your back on, if you love it. If you enjoyed this video, please do make sure to check out our full Philosophies for Life playlist, and for more videos to help you find success and happiness using ancient philosophical wisdom, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.